Hello everyone. Today we come together to look back at the lives of the artists who have just recently passed away. Individuals who touched the hearts of the public through their talent, dedication, and lasting marks on popular culture. This is a moment for us to remember and appreciate the enduring contributions they have left behind over the years. If you value memorial content like this, please support the channel by liking and subscribing. Thank you for being with us. Now let's begin. Actor Blake Garrett has passed away at the age of 34. The information was confirmed by his family and republished by the New York Post, according to a Z News article dated February 11, 2026. He died in Oklahoma, USA, after a short period of medical treatment. The exact cause is still awaiting test results. According to a statement shared by Ms. Carroll, the actor's mother, more than a week before his passing, Blake Garrett was hospitalized in severe pain and was diagnosed with shingles. Despite being monitored and treated, his condition did not improve. His sudden passing has left deep sorrow for his family and for the audiences who had followed his career since childhood. Blake Garrett was born on September 14, 1992, in Austin, Texas. He showed artistic talent at an early age and took the stage at 8 years old in local productions. Garrett played the lead role in Aladdin, and his magical lamp portrayed Charlie Brown in Peanuts, a Charlie Brown tribute, and appeared in well-known productions such as The Wizard of Oz, Annie, and Grease. Prior to gaining wider recognition, Garrett toured internationally in Barney's Colorful World from 2003 to 2004, performing the role of Mike. A few years later, in 2007, he became more widely known to audiences through the children's film How to Eat Fried Worms, where he and the young cast received a Young Artist Award for Best Young Ensemble Cast. Although in recent years he had appeared less frequently in public, Blake Garrett's childhood roles remain in the memories of many generations of viewers. His dedication and promising early beginnings remain a cherished part of American children's cinema. Blues guitar legend John Hammond passed away at the age of 83 on February 28, 2026. The information was confirmed to the press by his longtime associate Paul James, who said he received the news from Hammond's wife Marla. The cause and place of death have not yet been disclosed. John Hammond was born on November 13, 1942, in New York under the birth name John Paul Hammond. He was the son of music producer John H. Hammond, but chose his own path in traditional blues music. Beginning in the early 1960s, he started recording and performing, pursuing the raw style of Delta and Chicago blues. Over more than 6 decades of activity, Hammond released more than 30 albums and toured extensively throughout the United States and Europe. He was awarded a Grammy in 1985 and received additional nominations throughout his career. Hammond also won 8 Blues Music Awards and was inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame in 2011. He was highly regarded by critics for his perseverance and his commitment to preserving the original values of blues. With his guitar and simple vocal style, John Hammond helped bring blues music to multiple generations of audiences. He is remembered as an artist loyal to his roots and devoted to the stage. We bow our heads in remembrance of John Hammond. His guitar and voice will continue to echo in the hearts of blues lovers for generations to come. Actress Camilla Carr, a familiar face of 1970s horror films and who once appeared in the sitcom Designing Women, has passed away at the age of 83. The news was confirmed by her son, Kaylee O'Dwyer, and was reported by People. She died on February 4, 2026, at her home in El Paso, Texas, due to complications of Alzheimer's disease and a dislocated hip injury. Camilla Carr began her acting career in the early 1970s. She appeared in A Bullet for Pretty Boy 1970, but later gained attention with Don't Look in the Basement 1973 and continued with Logan's Run 1976. She collaborated multiple times with director S.F. Brownrigg on independent film projects, becoming a familiar face to audiences who favored the thriller genre. On television, Carr took part in 34 episodes of the long-running series Another World in the role of Rita Connolly. In 1987, she appeared in an episode of Designing Women, portraying Mrs. Imogen Salinger, a character that sparked considerable discussion at the time. This role has been recalled as a memorable moment in her career. In the following years, she continued with Falcon Crest and stage work in The Night of the Iguana. After nearly 3 decades away from the screen, she returned in 2015 with Don't Look in the Basement 2, which was also the final project of her career. Camilla Carr is remembered as a persistent actress, willing to take on challenging and distinctive roles, in remembrance of Camilla Carr, an artist who left her own mark in the memories of television and film audiences. Broadway actor and content creator Brett Hannah Shuford passed away at the age of 46 in the early morning of January 3, 2026. The news was confirmed by his husband Stephen Hannah Shuford on social media and was reported by People magazine. His family shared that he passed peacefully in the arms of his loved ones after a long and courageous battle against 2 rare, vicious cancers that were painful and relentless. Brett Hannah Shuford was born on May 20, 1979. He pursued a professional stage career and made his mark on Broadway with notable productions such as Wicked Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid, Amazing Grace, and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. He also performed in Paramore by Cirque du Soleil, as well as in productions including South Pacific at Lincoln Center, Ragtime, Next to Normal, and the Radio City Christmas Spectacular. His career spanned from the Broadway stage to nationwide tours. In addition to his artistic work, Brett and his husband built the social media account Broadway Husbands, where they shared their family life with their young son, Maverick. During his treatment, he continued to provide health updates and expressed gratitude to the community that supported their family. Brett Hannah Shuford is remembered as a devoted artist and a source of positive inspiration. His love for the stage and for his family was something he consistently demonstrated throughout every stage of his career. With deep respect, we remember Brett Hannah Shuford, a Broadway artist and a loving husband and father who left a beautiful mark in the hearts of the public. Veteran actor T.K. Carter, a familiar face from The Thing, Punky Brewster and Space Jam, passed away at the age of 69 on January 9, 2026. The information was confirmed to People magazine by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. He was found deceased at his home in Duarte, California. Authorities stated that there were no suspicious signs related to criminal activity. T.K. Carter was born on December 14, 1956, in Los Angeles. He began performing at a very young age and tried stand-up comedy at the age of 12. Entering the 1970s, he appeared in television programs such as Policewoman, The Waltons, and The Jeffersons. In 1982, Carter made a mark when he played Knowles in director John Carpenter's film The Thing. This role helped him become widely known to audiences. During the same period, he joined the sitcom Punky Brewster in the role of Mike Fulton. In the 1990s, he continued to work actively with Ski Patrol and voiced the character Naut in Space Jam. Carter also appeared in many television series such as Moshe, The Steve Harvey Show, The Nanny, and NYPD Blue. His final project was The Company You Keep in 2023. For nearly 5 decades, T.K. Carter consistently maintained his presence on screen with a wide range of roles. He was remembered as a professional actor dedicated to his craft. Carter's passing leaves deep sorrow. His performances will continue to be remembered for many years to come. On May 2, 1972, in Hayward, California, The Rock, Dwayne Douglas Johnson was born into a family where professional wrestling was not merely an occupation. It was bloodline, it was identity. It was something passed down through sweat and real collisions. His father, Rocky Johnson, was a pioneering figure in American professional wrestling. He broke racial barriers when he became one half of WWE's first black tag team champions. For Rocky, wrestling was not simply a performance. It was how he survived, where he endured and overcame the limits society had once placed upon his shoulders. On the other side of the family, that legacy ran even deeper. His mother, Ada Johnson, was the daughter of Peter Maivia, a respected Samoan high chief, a name that carried weight both in the ring and within Polynesian culture. Dwayne grew up between those two powerful currents. The expectations were never spoken aloud, yet they were always present. And greatness seemed foretold from the time he was very young, but the road leading to it was anything but smooth. The Johnson family home was rarely truly home. Rocky's performing career kept the family constantly moving from one cramped apartment to another, across multiple cities throughout the United States and even beyond its borders. Each move meant starting over. A new school, an unfamiliar neighborhood, a circle of friends barely formed before it had to be left behind. His stability was a luxury Dwayne never truly had in his early years. Money was often scarce. There were times when the refrigerator was nearly empty, unpaid bills piled up, eviction notices appeared unexpectedly at the door. Dwayne was still very young when he began to notice the quiet worry on his mother's face. A pressure that was not loud, but heavy, lingering day after day. Then one afternoon in Nashville, when Dwayne was 14 years old, a moment etched itself into his memory forever. Under prolonged financial and emotional strain, his mother stepped into the path of oncoming traffic on a highway. Dwayne rushed forward and pulled her back. The act unfolded in only a few brief seconds, but its echo lasted for many years afterward. That event was not only a painful memory, it became a quiet thread running through his life. A reminder that physical strength does not shield anyone from internal collapse. Years later, standing on major stages before millions of viewers, but Dwayne Johnson still carried the image of that 14-year-old boy, witnessing the fragility of the person he loved most. In his early years, between a powerful legacy and financial hardship, between expectation and instability, Dwayne was not raised in certainty. He grew up in an environment of pressure and constant change, in the necessity of adapting to survive, and in an early lesson about human limits, a lesson that came from within his own family. Amid the chaos of family life, Dwayne found refuge in sports. There were clear rules and a sense of control that his private world had never remained stable long enough to give him. On the practice field, everything was transparent. If he put in the effort, the work would be rewarded. If he faltered, someone else would move ahead. There was no ambiguity, no sudden moves to a new home, no unpaid bills sitting silently on the kitchen table. His physical potential revealed itself early. Polynesian blood gave Dwayne a solid build, broad shoulders, and natural strength as if prepared for impact. But physique was only the visible part. What truly bound him to sports was the feeling of belonging to an ordered system, something a childhood of constant relocation had never allowed. Every time the family moved was another beginning, a new school, new friends, new scrutinizing looks. On the field, he did not need to explain who he was. His role was defined by position and performance. When the family settled in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, the pace of life slowed long enough for Dwayne to take root. He attended Freedom High School. There, football and track became the two main pillars of his life. A packed training schedule replaced empty afternoons. The sound of collisions on the field replaced the noise in his mind. On the field, he was no longer the boy who had changed schools repeatedly. He was an athlete with a clear role, a position, responsibility. But Dwayne's teenage years did not follow a straight line. Alongside practices were days of drifting off course. In the process of searching for himself and a sense of acceptance, he was gradually pulled toward negative influences: petty theft, street fights, repeated encounters with law enforcement. Before turning 17, he had been arrested multiple times. Those incidents did not stem from aggression, but from confusion accumulated over years, from the feeling of having to protect himself in environments that were constantly changing. His large frame made him appear older and tougher than he truly was, drawing him into confrontations he sometimes barely understood himself. His parents saw the boundary approaching. Intervention came decisively, especially from Rocky Johnson. Discipline replaced looseness. Clear limits were set. No more empty spaces to drift into trouble. Football, an outlet, became a true lifeline, not just an after-school activity, but the only path forward. On the field, Dwayne began to flourish. At the defensive tackle position, he displayed a rare combination of physical advantage, speed, and instinctive reflexes. Each tackle was a quiet declaration that he was choosing his direction again. What drew scouts' attention, however, was not only his physique, it was the way he worked. Steady, unshowy, as if every practice could determine his future. The unstable years before seemed to have forged in him an inner discipline and a fear of returning to the starting line. College offers began to appear. Scouts started calling his name. Then came the major turning point, a full scholarship to the University of Miami, one of the most prestigious football programs in the United States. For the Johnson family, this was not merely an athletic achievement. It was tangible proof that a path could change, that the years of constant moving, mounting bills, and silent worries had not been meaningless. Dwayne entered the University of Miami carrying more than personal ambition. He carried the expectations of his parents, of a family that had once struggled simply to survive. Sports had given him a real opportunity, the chance to redefine himself through effort rather than circumstance. Yet life continued to present challenges for him. The NFL dream did not end in a dramatic moment. It wore down, quietly, painfully. Injuries began to erode Dwayne Johnson's football future while he was still at the University of Miami. The body that had once been his greatest advantage was now becoming a point of vulnerability. His shoulder absorbed repeated collisions. His back began sending warning signals. He kept playing, kept training, kept believing he could push through. But there are limits that cannot be negotiated. He was not selected in the NFL draft. The professional dream narrowed to one final opportunity: the Canadian Football League. Dwayne signed with the Calgary Stampeders, hoping to extend the journey. But the intensity of competition did not make things better. The physical issues that had accumulated earlier grew more serious. And then the dream dissolved. No noise, no audience, just a door closing. He returned to his parents' home. In his pocket were exactly $7. That number later became symbolic. But at that moment, it carried no inspirational meaning. It was a stark reality, a cold realization of how quickly ambition can collapse. From a full scholarship at the University of Miami to his parents' aging apartment, the distance was not as far as he had once believed. In that situation, professional wrestling, something that ran in his blood, opened another path. Not because he was certain of success, but because it was the only door still open. Under the strict guidance of Rocky Johnson, he entered an unforgiving environment. Wrestling was not just technique. It was the ability to endure pain, understand timing, read the psychology of the crowd. He learned from the roots. In 1996, he debuted in WWE under the name Rocky Maivia, a combination honoring both his father and his grandfather. WWE introduced him as a bright, smiling young hero, a model good guy. But the audience did not accept him. They booed, they mocked him, they openly chanted for him to be removed. In an industry where crowd reaction determined survival, it was a clear warning. That moment could have ended his career before it truly began. Instead of trying to convince the audience to like him, Dwayne chose a different path. He abandoned the forced optimism and rebuilt himself from the inside out. The Rock emerged, sharper, bolder, confident to the point of challenge. And he did not seek approval. He demanded attention. His catchphrases spread beyond the ring. The raised eyebrow became an instantly recognizable signature. He learned to control the audience's breathing, stretching a pause, shifting a glance, then reversing the emotion of an entire arena. He did not simply win over the crowd, he directed them. At the height of WWE's most profitable era, The Rock stood at the center. He headlined WrestleMania multiple times, WWE's biggest annual event. His rivalries with Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, and Mankind became defining chapters in the industry's history. It was not only physical collision, it was storytelling through dialogue, through eye contact, through pushing emotion to its limit and releasing it at the precise moment. From a man publicly booed, Dwayne Johnson learned to turn rejection into fuel. He did not avoid negative reaction, he absorbed it, then used it to reshape himself. And in that process, a character was born, not only to survive within WWE, but to move beyond it. After standing at the center of WWE, Dwayne Johnson stepped into a different arena, one where the lights did not shine down from above onto a wrestling ring, but from the lens of a camera. Hollywood took notice. But initial attention did not mean recognition. His first roles followed a familiar pattern. The muscular man, the action antagonist, a presence defined more by physicality than depth. In 2001, he appeared in The Mummy Returns as the Scorpion King. It was a brief role, one driven more by visual impact than complex substance. Yet audiences remembered him, not because of screen time, but because of screen presence. That response led directly to a larger opportunity. In 2002, The Scorpion King was released, and Dwayne Johnson became a leading man almost overnight. He received a salary considered unprecedented for a first-time leading actor. The film was commercially successful, but critics were not generous. They saw it as pure entertainment, lacking depth. Within the industry, many predicted a familiar trajectory, a wrestler trying Hollywood, shining briefly, then fading into forgettable projects. According to many, it would have been easy to choose the safe path, to continue taking repetitive action roles to preserve the muscular man image the public already recognized. But Dwayne chose differently, not because he rejected his strengths, but because he understood that relying solely on them would shorten his career. When the following years tested his patience and his ego, he accepted roles in family comedies such as The Game Plan, Race to Witch Mountain, and Tooth Fairy. These were not natural choices for a rising action icon. To many, it looked like a step backward. Some wrestling fans criticized him for turning his back on his roots. Critics occasionally mocked the tonal shift. But behind that decision was clear calculation. He needed flexibility. He needed to prove he could attract multiple audience groups, not just those seeking collisions and explosions. He needed studios to see that he could open a film outside the action genre, that he could collaborate rather than rely solely on personal charisma. That was how credibility is built in an industry wary of one-season wonders. Those family films may not have been regarded as artistic peaks, but they made money. More importantly, they introduced him to younger audiences and families, viewers who did not know him from WWE but from the big screen. His image began to shift, not only a strong man, but a character capable of self-awareness, capable of softening when necessary. The change was not loud, it was not an instant breakthrough, but it laid the foundation. Dwayne Johnson was no longer seen merely as a wrestling star crossing into film, but he gradually became a reliable box office choice, a face that could be placed in different contexts without making audiences feel disconnected. The strategy was not about winning immediately, it was about extending the race. And in an industry where fame can vanish after just a few film seasons, choosing to move slower in order to last longer required more clarity than risk. The year 2011 marked an important turning point in Dwayne Johnson's film career. When Fast and Furious, after several installments, began to show signs of repetition, Fast 5 emerged as a test, and with it came Luke Hobbs, the character portrayed by Dwayne Johnson, not the central hero, not a member of the family from the beginning. Hobbs entered the story as a pursuing force, a tough federal agent assigned to hunt down Dom Toretto and his team. But Dwayne's appearance changed the atmosphere of the film. Luke Hobbs brought a different kind of energy, direct, few words, ready for collision. The confrontation scenes between him and Vin Diesel became highlights, two muscular figures facing each other in tight frames, needing little dialogue, only eye contact and breathing. Fast 5 quickly became the highest-grossing installment of the franchise up to that time. That success did not only revive the franchise, but it placed Dwayne Johnson in a new pillar position in Hollywood. After that, he continued to appear in subsequent Fast and Furious installments before leading the spin-off Hobbs and Shaw. The character Luke Hobbs was no longer an addition, but became the center of a separate branch within the brand. This affirmed Dwayne's position not merely as a star participating in a major project, but as a factor capable of expanding the commercial structure of the project itself. And this period witnessed a series of consecutive commercial successes. San Andreas, a large-scale disaster film, grossed more than $400 million worldwide. Critical responses may have been mixed, but the box office response was clear. Audiences went to theaters for him. Rampage, adapted from a video game about giant creatures destroying a city, also exceeded commercial expectations. In such exaggerated settings, Dwayne Johnson anchored the story with seriousness and the stability of his character. Then came Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle and its sequel. The combination of Dwayne Johnson and Kevin Hart created a duo with a distinct comedic rhythm. The two films combined surpassed the $1 billion mark worldwide. Here, he did not rely solely on physique. He accepted adjusting his hyper-masculine image, engaging in self-mockery and playing with the contrast between his massive body and the sometimes clumsy personality of the character. Parallel to cinema, he participated in the television series Ballers, which ran for 5 seasons. The role of a former football player entering the world of sports finance reflected part of his real-life experience. This was one of the rare times audiences saw Dwayne Johnson in a space less dependent on action spectacle, and yet requiring sustained acting endurance across multiple broadcast seasons. At the same time, he joined the DC cinematic universe with the role of Black Adam, a character he had pursued for more than 10 years. The appeal of Black Adam lay in moral ambiguity, a different shade from the familiar hero archetype he had previously built. This role demonstrated a desire to expand his image range, not confining himself to a single character type. By this point, It's Dwayne Johnson was no longer a former wrestler trying his hand at film. He became part of a global commercial structure, a face capable of helping relaunch franchises, strengthen brands, and expand international markets. His success did not come from a single film, but from calculated repetition, maintaining presence in large projects, diverse in genre, yet unified in strategy. The period after 2011 was not merely a step forward in revenue. It was the moment Dwayne Johnson shifted from star status to pillar status, a figure capable of shaping the direction of an entire entertainment production system. At the peak of his career, Dwayne Johnson is not just an actor. He operates like a system, a brand, a multi-layered entertainment structure, where every film project, every product line, every social media post fits into a broader strategy. He often chooses to participate in film franchises that already have an established audience and strong brand recognition, rather than taking risks on completely new scripts. Some people in the industry consider that a safe choice, but the commercial results are clear. Dwayne Johnson has repeatedly ranked among the highest paid actors in the world, frequently appearing on the Forbes list, with earnings exceeding $60 million per year. 7 Bucks Productions was born as an important step. The name recalls the moment he returned to his parents' home with exactly $7 in his pocket. Not to retell an old story, but to remind that control was something he once did not have. While this company allows him to be deeply involved in the production process, shaping projects rather than merely appearing in front of the camera. Films such as Skyscraper, Jungle Cruise, and Red Notice were built largely around his persona, a strong, resilient man who faces crisis with composure. Alongside cinema, social media became an extension of the brand. His Instagram account, with hundreds of millions of followers, allows him to communicate directly with a global audience. And studios do not overlook that. His massive reach has become part of marketing strategies. Workout videos, everyday reflections, short messages, all create a sense of closeness, even if carefully managed. But behind that dense and glamorous schedule is a body worn down through multiple phases. At the University of Miami and later in the CFL, repeated collisions caused serious damage to his shoulder. A severe back injury reduced his NFL prospects and contributed to him not being drafted. And his time with the Calgary Stampeders made the condition worse. His body could not withstand the intensity. The back injury became a long-term burden. In WWE, injury was not the exception, but the rule. Muscle tears, dislocations, multiple concussions, at a time when the long-term risks of head trauma were not yet fully recognized. A serious abdominal tear required surgery and forced him to pause his wrestling schedule. When he transitioned to Hollywood, the nature of impact changed, but the pressure did not lessen. Dwayne often insisted on performing many of his own action scenes. As a result, injuries continued, muscle tears, ligament damage, recurring shoulder and back issues. During the filming of the Titan Games, he had to undergo emergency surgery. Although he later downplayed the severity when speaking publicly, the incident showed that physical limits cannot be postponed indefinitely. To maintain high muscle mass for many years, and he often consumed more than 5,000 calories per day. Workdays stretched 12 to 16 hours. There were periods when he admitted sleeping only about 4 to 5 hours per night, a lifestyle built on discipline but also on sacrifice. Alongside the physical toll was another battle, less visible. Dwayne Johnson has spoken openly about his long struggle with depression, particularly after his football dream collapsed, and he returned home with $7. The feeling of losing direction and the psychological aftershock could not be compensated by physical strength. The memory of the moment at age 14 when he pulled his mother back from traffic on a highway remains. In recent years, he has used his platform to speak about mental health, emphasizing that men should not see seeking help as weakness. That message comes from personal experience rather than a slogan. At the same time, ACT debates about performance-enhancing substances have followed him for many years. His muscular size and ability to maintain his physique beyond the age of 50 have made speculation almost inevitable. When asked, he admitted to trying steroids in his youth, but has said little about later periods. The debate extends beyond him personally, touching on body expectations and standards of masculinity that the entertainment industry helps shape. Say, in front of the public stands an image of strength and discipline. Behind it are accumulated costs to the body, to sleep, to psychological shadowed spaces, a brand carefully constructed, yet still built upon a finite human being. There is a quiet truth that runs parallel to success. No one stands long enough in the spotlight without witnessing the shadows. For Dwayne Johnson, loss did not come just once. It repeated itself in many forms across different stages of his life. In the world of professional wrestling, where he grew up and built his name, the early passing of many colleagues was not unfamiliar. Losses connected to health crises and mental pressure became reminders of the unseen cost of the industry. Mark in 2007, Bryan Adams, who had competed under the name Crush and later as Brian Clark, died from an overdose related to prescription medication and other substances. It was not simply sad news in the headlines. It was a reminder that the human body and mind have limits, no matter how much audiences may want to believe in invincibility. In January 2020, Rocky Johnson passed away at the age of 75. To the public, he was a pioneer, one of those who helped open doors for black wrestlers in WWE. To Dwayne, he was a father. A complicated relationship. Strict, distant, and not always easy. The passing was sudden. There was no complete farewell, no final conversation to close what had been left unsaid. The pain, therefore, lay not only in the loss itself, but also in the questions that would never have answers. In Hollywood, the death of Paul Walker in 2013 also left a deep mark. Although their relationship was not a close friendship outside of work, Walker's passing changed the atmosphere of the Fast and Furious family. The films that followed carried a visible absence. Box office success did not ease the sense of loss. Those losses gradually shaped Dwayne Johnson's worldview. Success does not exempt anyone from tragedy. Fame does not extend even a single moment with someone who is gone. Perhaps for that reason, his pace of life has been both urgent and intentional. Today, he operates like a multi-layered media enterprise: film, like a television, production, consumer brands, digital platforms. His schedule remains demanding. He often wakes at 4 or 5 a.m. to train. Workdays lasting 14 to 16 hours are not unusual. That discipline is a habit, but also a way to maintain structure in a world that never stops moving. Family now holds a clearer place in the present picture. His marriage to Dani Garcia ended in 2007, yet they continue a professional partnership through 7 Bucks Productions. Later, he married Lauren Hashian and has repeatedly emphasized fatherhood as a priority. His eldest daughter, Simone Johnson, chose to enter WWE, continuing the family legacy, but in her own way. At one point, public opinion polls suggested that Dwayne Johnson could be a notable political candidate. The idea was mentioned openly. However, he has remained cautious, understanding that entering politics would mean risking division among a broad audience that comes to him for entertainment, not for political views. Then there is the question of age. A brand built largely on physicality will inevitably face biological decline. A body that absorbed impact at the University of Miami, in the CFL, in WWE, and in action films cannot operate at the same intensity forever. The challenge is not preserving the old image, but adapting. From $7 in his pocket to a multi-hundred-million-dollar empire, Dwayne Johnson's journey is often told as a classic American reinvention story. But between the brand and the man, there is a quieter space. There, strength exists alongside vulnerability. Optimism moves beside loss. Discipline carries its cost. His legacy may be measured in box office numbers or social media followers. Yet perhaps the more enduring part lies in his public openness about depression, about pain, and about the need to seek help, something once seen as weakness in the world in which he was raised. When the lights dim, what remains is not only the image of a strong man, it is a person who has lived through enough rises and falls to understand that true strength is not only in muscle, but in the ability to stand through loss and keep moving forward.